What's up, everybody? It's your boy Adam. It is one more sleep left in this place. So glad. There is so much stuff wrong with this place. Um, at night now, so at night, when the sun goes down, there's it's nonstop from the time the sun goes down till the sun comes up. There's a chirping sound, and I'm like, at first I'm like, is this a cricket inside here? But crickets have a different chirp, and I haven't been able to figure out exactly what it is. But supposedly around here in Texas, there are birds that chirp all night. That's what I think it is. I don't know where, but it's literally right outside the door. But if I open the door, if I move, if I even so much as walk across the place, the chirping stops. It goes silent. So I have no idea what it is. I look around, I don't see anything. Well, now there's two of them. One in that corner of the room and one in that corner, the opposite corners. And it's all night. I mean, all night long, and it's loud. Chirp, 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 chirp. And I keep trying to, it's not like I've put hours of research into this, but every now and then I try to find something on YouTube, like a match, a sound match. Birds chirping at night. Oh, no, that's not the one. And so I don't know, whatever. I got one more night of this. It'll be interesting if I have to listen to this at the new place at night. But it just seems like I'm moving to a quieter place. One interesting thing I might be able to do at my new place. There's a lot of yard space. I guess it's really hard to describe this. It's a plot of land with a cluster of homes. You'll see the picture. You'll see the tour of the home. I'll show you the outside and everything. Um, there are two fairly nice looking. I'm gonna call them cabins. I don't know. They. I don't know if there's wheels under them, but there's two fairly decent looking cabins, and how do I put it? One of them has a little porch, and I've seen pictures of the inside. Supposedly, it's going to be available down the road. I don't know if it would be better than the one I'm moving into, to be honest. They look to be about the same size, but the other one looks a little bit more cramped because it's divided up into more rooms with like a hallway, and it just kind of gives me this vibe of everything would feel more cramped inside. The one I'm living in or moving into is basically it's just wide open space with a couple of divider walls and some doors. 20 by 10, like a first room is 20 by 10, and it has a kitchen in the corner. And I think I've got some ideas on how to set that room up, but you don't know until you get in. Second room, I believe, is like 15 by 10. Sounds about right. I measured it with my feet yesterday, but I didn't have a tape measure, so I used my actual feet. but I think I got a pretty accurate read on the size of those rooms. The second one, I wrote it down, but I believe it was 15, could be 13, 13 by 10. And the bathroom is basically like 6 feet by 10. 10 being the width of the building. So the total length of the building is 40 feet. So it's 10 by 40 feet. So it's like a 40-foot single wide trailer, but it doesn't look like a trailer. It looks like it was built. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. I don't know anything about it. How this came to be, but it's in decent shape. It's not perfect, but it's not bad. It's way better than what I'm living in right now. Way better. um, and then there's another. So I guess the first time I looked at it, they had a couple of RVs on the property that are no longer there. Because they were asking me if I remembered seeing them, and I'm like, I don't remember. Like it was a while ago. It was in the beginning of April. Because as soon as this landlord here, my bad, as soon as the slumlord I live with here, as soon as he started threatening me, I was like, I'm out of here, and I started looking for a place. But I wasn't going to tell him that I'm leaving in the beginning of April. It was April 3rd when he threatened me. That would have made the month of April a complete and absolute disaster of a nightmare. And I couldn't find a place by the end of the month. Believe me, I tried. I couldn't do it. I looked at a bunch of places and I couldn't. Well, I found this place that I'm moving into in the beginning of April, but I didn't want to move there. I wanted to see if I could do better, and I thought I had, but I never thought it was a bad place when I looked at it. There were certain things that seemed like they were going to be difficult. Whatever. At this point, it's just, at this point, I'm glad that garage apartment didn't work out. Sometimes things, there could have been something about that place that would have turned into I don't see it being a nightmare, but that I could see the owner of that place, the way he was acting. I don't want to say he would just let himself in like this one does anytime he, like, I I would have to set up cameras to make sure my privacy is not being invaded when I'm at work and whatnot. Like, oh, I'm just going to let myself in and look around. But I feel like he's the kind of guy that if he came over to fix something or whatever, he would be very nitpicky about you know what I mean? Like, some landlords don't, as long as you're clean. I mean, if you're just trashing a place, if I came over to fix something and I saw the place was just trashed and things were getting my property was being damaged, I don't give a shit about the tenant's property, how they treat their own stuff. But if my property is being damaged, I would have to say something and try to remedy that with, before going through the courts or having to evict somebody or all that. I'd have to be like, yo, can't have this. But sometimes you could have a landlord that comes into your place and just starts nitpicking things that are none of his or her business. And that could be something that may have happened at that place. I mean, I'm just speculating. It doesn't matter. I'm getting out of here tomorrow. That's the thing. That's the great thing. There's a bit of a yard, like I was saying. There's a lot of trees. We had a storm there were a lot of tree branches laying around the property, and I'm like, if I can find some stones or find what I need, I could make a nice little fire pit and be able to sit and get some camp chairs, be able to sit around, make a little fire ring somewhere. The landlord, I would not imagine that the landlord would have a problem with a little fire ring, a little fire pit. He don't seem like the kind of guy who would. I'd ask him, of course, but might be able to have a little fire ring at the new place and be able to stack up a little bit of firewood and be able to sit and chill by the fire at night here and there, or whatever. That's down the road, though. I'm not. I'm just, I don't see myself spending much time outside there, to be honest. Not, it has nothing to do. I met one of the neighbors. So it's a property, it's a piece of land. It has this 10-foot by 40-foot home, another one, and they look fairly nice. He put another one on the property, and then there's another one that I don't think I haven't seen it up close, but down on the property a little farther back there's another mobile home like that. It's got skirting around it. It doesn't look like a trailer home. It looks like a pre-built cabin kind of a thing. I don't know how to describe them. I don't know what you would call these things. And then there's an RV, like a fifth wheel, parked way in the back of the property. So it is kind of like a weird ass trailer park kind of thing. It's the best way I can describe it. So, I mean, in reality, it seems like it's a father and a son who operate this thing. And, if I'm the thing, well, it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. They could probably be making, based on what I see and what I'm guessing, they're probably bringing in $5,000 a month on this property. Which, I mean, that's not bad, but I don't know what they're shelling out per month to do what they're doing. Like they're like I said, they're putting units on this property. It does seem like an underground trailer park, though. I don't know. It's weird in that sense. It would be nice if the house that I'm moving into had some sort of porch. Maybe. Well, I'm not even worried about it. It's not that important. It's just kind of, I don't use the porch here at all. It's my bicycle parking garage. It's a roof that keeps my bicycles from getting rained on. And when I leave here, I didn't do this at first, but now when I leave here, I bring the bicycle. Whatever bicycle I'm not riding, or if I'm walking somewhere, I bring both of them in. I leave the bicycles inside here so that they're not just readily available to be taken. It's more convenient and easier to do that than locking them with a cable would be. But still, a lot of people were trying to say that, oh, your bikes are going to get stolen if you just leave them out like that. This tiny house here, first of all, there's a driveway that I'm going to tell you it's more like a parking lot. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, between 5 and 7 cars. Between 5 and 7 cars parked in this driveway at any given time. There's a gate, a rickety ass, like this, there's a fence going around the yard, and there's a gate, a wooden gate at the beginning, like on the side of the house, and the door is practically it's about to fall off Wouldn't be surprised if it does I mean, it could fall off any day. But it makes a shitload of noise because he just everything this guy does is fucking retarded and ghetto. So he put a wheel on the bottom of the door of the gate, but he did a shitty job with it, and it's a dirt driveway. So all the wheel does is dig into the dirt, and you can't open this door. Like, you have to wrestle with it. I have to shake it and yank it and pull up on it and go through this whole fucking process every day just to open and close this stupid gate. So it makes a shit ton of noise. So to get to the tiny house, you would have to you'd have to park in a parking lot. It's a driveway in front of the house, but it's basically a parking lot at this point. People park in the fucking yard. It's fucking insane. There's a bunch of flags saying "Come and take them," like "Come and take my guns, motherfucker," "Fuck Joe Biden," all this other stuff. So then you go through the gate after you've made all this fucking noise trying to get the gate open. Then you'd have to go all the way around the dude's house, past every window. So you'd have to go back to the back of the house. Then you got to go across this back patio. There could be all kinds of people sitting outside on the back patio. And then you go around the patio, and then you come up and you're at the tiny house. And so you'd have to go through then you'd have to take my bicycles and leave the way that you came. And you'd have to do all of that without anybody seeing you. Plus there's security camera. I know the owner of this property has security cameras outside. I don't even know where they are. When I was doing the video, when I first moved in here and I was doing the tiny house videos, where I would stand outside and walk into the tiny house at the beginning of each video, I did that like a handful of times, and all of a sudden I get this text message from the guy. "Hey, why are you out in the backyard taking videos or taking photos of the tiny house?" And I'm like, "Yo." He's like, "I saw you on the security camera." And I'm like, to this day, I have no fucking idea where this security camera is, so it must be a good one. It must be well hidden. I have not seen it. And I don't talk to the guy. I could have casually been like, "Hey, where's the security camera?" Like, I could have brought it up in a conversation of like, "Hey, man, you got a nice hidden camera, because I've been trying to figure out where it is." I would like to know, like, where did you get a camera that I can't even find? And I'm pretty good at finding these kinds of things. So I don't know. Like, I've been looking a lot trying to figure. I don't just stand out in the yard going like this, looking around for it. But every time I'm back there, I'm like, where is this fucking thing? Other people that live here don't even know that there's a camera out there. Because I was telling somebody one day out in the back patio that one of the other people that live here was talking shit about the landlord. And I said, "Oh, by the way, he's got a camera back here. I don't know where it is." And they're like, "Oh, so he's probably listening to me right now." And I'm like, he might be. He might be. But if somebody came back here and stole the bikes, they'd be on camera. Not that, that would help. If the bike's gone, the bike's gone. The police aren't probably going to give a fuck about it. I've got the serial numbers for both of them if they were to show up at a pawn shop or something like, that. If they showed up at a pawn shop, that would be your best bet in terms of recovering them, because the pawn shop has to report. The pawn shop anytime the pawn shop buys something that has a serial number, they have to declare it and check with the police to see if it's stolen goods. So maybe a bicycle shop that buys used bikes would have to do the same thing. I'm not. Most places have that kind of a rule. Um, Pretty crazy stuff. But anyway, so no, there would be a lot of shit somebody would have to go through to steal the bikes from here. So I've always felt if they ended up missing, it would be somebody that lives here. It would almost, and then if that were the case, the landlord would have video footage of it. And so if the bikes ended up missing and he magically doesn't have any video footage of it, then you know, common sense and logic would say who it was that took the bikes. Um, so no, I haven't had any issues with that. It's not like this tiny house faces the road and people are walking by seeing he's got two bicycles out on the porch. You know, it's not like that. The porch is, you would walk by this place and think that this was just a shed or something. You wouldn't walk by this place from the street and go, oh, somebody lives in there. It looks like a barn. It looks like a small garage or a shed in someone's yard from street view because the porch faces the backyard. And so from the road, it doesn't look like much. But it is the kind of neighborhood where I wouldn't want to leave stuff out that's valuable, for sure. Um, I wouldn't trust it that much. It's not the best neighborhood. I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of a weird neighborhood, to be honest. It's part ghetto, part nice. It's like suburban, but it's also ghetto, and I can't. It's like a cross between. You would think you're in the suburbs. You'd think you're in an affluent suburbs driving around here, until you go into a restaurant or a grocery store, and then you'd be like, "What the fuck?" Like, you go into the grocery store and you see half the people in the grocery store walking around with their pants pulled down to their knees, and you're like, "Oh, that don't match the neighborhood and the houses that I've seen, and the way that these two things don't go together." But it is. I don't know. Hopefully, where I'm moving is better because it's away from the main drag. I'm right in the middle of like the main. I'm one of the main parts of this neighborhood, I guess. Like the main. This is where everything is. All the shops, all the shopping, and the main highway, and I'm right in the middle of it all. Where I'm moving to is off to the side of it all, like tucked back from it all. There's some stuff down there, but it's not as busy and it's not as loud as here. And I don't know. I mean, you hear the noise of the road out there and you hear all these loud ass engines. The only traffic that I see on the road that I'm moving to is slow moving, quiet traffic. I don't hear now, I've only been there 3 times. But I can tell you the first 2 times I came to this place, the first 2 times I was here were loud as fuck. I was like, that road's gonna be a problem. I already knew before moving in here that this road, even my friend drove me down here the first time I came to look at it, and even we couldn't even back out of the fucking driveway. The first time he stopped here, he went in nose first into the driveway, and we had to sit there for like 15 minutes before we could back out of the fucking driveway. The road is that crazy out in front of this place. It's almost like living on the side of an expressway. It's like living on the side of an interstate where there's just driveways. But there's it's almost like that. This road sucks. This road sucks so bad. It sucks to ride a bike on it. It sucks to live on it. There's no sidewalks to walk. And it's a residential neighborhood. It's a residential neighborhood with no sidewalk. I see people walking up and down the street here. So many people walk up and down the street here that there's a stripe of dead grass in everybody's front yard. You don't get that from just a couple of people walking up and down the street. You get a stripe of dead grass and mud where people walk constantly, day after day after day, nonstop. So, why the fucking city won't put and it's not the city of Houston. It's a residential, or it's its own municipality. But why they won't put fucking sidewalks on residential streets blows my fucking. But it's Texas, man. That's all I see down here in Texas is retarded ass shit like this. Like there would not be a neighborhood like this in New York or Pennsylvania or any other place I've ever been where it's a residential neighborhood with the houses one after the next with no fucking sidewalk. That a sidewalk would be part of the requirement to build a neighborhood like that. Makes no sense. And there's a reason for it, because people are going to be walking. People are going to be walking. And I'm not saying I would ride my bicycle on the sidewalk. You're not supposed to ride your bicycle on the sidewalk, but enough people walk up and down this street every day that it blows my mind that they're just like, fuck them, they don't get a sidewalk. And you can see a trail. There's a literal trail from my house all the way from where I live right here. It's a mile to Target. And there's literally a trail, a footpath of dead grass and mud and dirt between here and Target. A whole mile of a pathway. And not one single sidewalk square anywhere. Well, no, at one of the intersections, there's ramps for handicapped people, and they got the beep, beep for the blind people to cross the street buttons, and they have handicap ramps on the corners as if there was a sidewalk there, but there's no sidewalk. Like, this city, Texas is fucking retarded. I am not impressed at all by the state of Texas. I think it sucks. I mean, I'm not feeling this place at all. A lot of people are telling me it's because I live in Houston, and Houston's like the worst place in Texas, and I'm like, yeah, I'll give it that. That's like judging New York State because you spent some time in New York City. But New York State sucks. I mean, everywhere you go sucks in New York State. For different reasons, but the whole state sucks. I would never want to live there. I like Pennsylvania to a degree. There are things, anywhere you live, something's going to suck. No doubt about it. Anywhere you go, anywhere you live, something is going to be bad about the place. When the scam-demic was going on and Joe Biden said, stay home, lock your doors, don't go outside, I was like, you can go fucking choke on a dick, you crippled old fuck. And so I took my son on a road trip, more than one. We went to like 20 different states, and I was exploring. I'm like, from New York all the way down to Florida and back, I'm pretty familiar, and you go a certain number of states inward pretty much anything east of the Mississippi, I'm pretty familiar with everything. I've generally been there at least once. East of the Mississippi, I've probably, you name a city, you name a state, I've probably been there at least once, and I know my way around, and I generally know the lay of the land and what things are like. So, we were kind of going, it was kind of like, I needed to check and see if the places that I thought would have more freedom. I'm looking at how many people are walking around with masks on their face. I'm looking at how businesses treat you when you walk into the business without a mask on your face. Are the people that work there wearing a mask on their face? And just the general vibe. And so we went down to between Pennsylvania and Florida. New York's out. New York sucks. Everywhere you go in the whole state of New York, it doesn't matter if you're in the rural areas or not. Everybody's wearing a fucking mask and acting like a retard. Pennsylvania, not at all. In Pennsylvania, if you're in a blue county, everybody's wearing a mask and acting like a retard. If you're in a red county, you wouldn't even know something's wrong because you won't really see people in their masks and all that. Allegheny National Forest area, nobody was going along with this bullshit. Basically in populated areas where Democrats live. And that's the case all over America while this was going on. I mean, here in Houston, I see people wearing masks every fucking day. Every day. It's 2025, and I guarantee you if I went outside today and went to a store or something, I'd see somebody wearing a fucking mask on their face. I'd see someone driving around in a car by themselves wearing a mask. I'd see someone walking down I'd see someone on a bicycle trail jogging in a goddamn COVID mask. Fucking idiots. Complete fucking retards. Like that whole thing, the whole mask thing was literally an experiment that the government put out. Like how many of the Americans have we dumbed down, and how many of these people are so fucking retarded that they'll just do whatever we say, whatever retarded ass thing that we tell them to do, how many people will obey? Like, I'm not even gonna, we're just gonna move on from there. But anyway, West Virginia. It didn't matter where you went in West Virginia. You didn't see people wearing masks. You didn't see people going along with this bullshit. It was pretty much like nothing was happening. The whole state. The whole state. In fact, I would meet people in Weirton, West Virginia, which is pretty close to Pittsburgh. Well, let me take that back. Morgantown, West Virginia was bad. You didn't want to be in Morgantown. And the only parts of Morgantown that you needed to stay away from were where West Virginia University, the college campus. If you were anywhere near WVU, forget it. I got screamed at for going into a pizza shop without a mask on. They were like hostile and complete assholes about it. All I wanted to do was order a pizza and get the fuck out of there, and they were like a bunch of dumbass college kids screaming at the top of their lungs at me. So yeah, Orange Man bad crowd. So screw that. Morgantown, any college town, you can cross off your list. But otherwise, the state of West Virginia was good, had no problems. North Carolina, terrible. Terrible. Everywhere you went in North Carolina, full of fucking retards going along with this shit. Asheville, I started calling Asheville Maskville. Asheville was the worst. Oh, it was so bad. Asheville was terrible. Go across the border to Tennessee. Tennessee's awesome. Georgia sucks. Georgia always sucks. Georgia's like the New York of the South. So there's never been a day of my life where I'm like, man, I like Georgia. No, Georgia's a fucking dump. Georgia's the worst fucking state in the South. Um, Virginia, another one, bad. Virginia fucking sucks. You know, people screaming and yelling at me for not wearing a mask outside. Like, you know, just dumb like, Virginia sucks. Georgia sucks. They're the two worst states south of the Mason-Dixon line on the east of the Mississippi. Georgia being the New York of the South. It's fucking it's a terrible place. Everything about Georgia sucks. Doesn't surprise me that Georgia played a key role in rigging the 2020 election. Georgia's a fucking hellhole. I would never, ever want to live in Georgia. Mm-mm. Florida, on the other hand, was great. Florida, no problems. Tampa, I had a few issues here and there with the mask wearing retards. I did get kicked out of a few places and treated like shit because I wouldn't wear a mask in Tampa. But otherwise, you know, it's the rule. You know, if you know, if you're in a red county, you're okay. But if you're in a blue county, get the fuck out. If you're in any place that voted blue, you know what to do. Get out. Leave. Don't be in the blue places. So you have to look at the map as a county by county map, not so much a state by state map. But when it comes to the individual states, you got to look at, does your state have a city or a couple of cities that are so big that they basically determine how the rest of the state has to live? So New York, for example, has New York City. They also have Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, and small cities like that are all blue. Rochester's blue, Buffalo's blue, New York City's blue as fuck. So you've got all this extra area. You've got wilderness in New York State. You've got the Adirondack wilderness. You got people that have cabins in New York in the Adirondacks that you can only reach by a fucking water plane, a biplane with a walk, because your cabin might be on some lake in the middle of the Adirondack wilderness that has no road going to it, and you can't take a boat to it either. You'd literally need a plane with pontoons to land near your. That's the only way you can get to your cabin. Either that or a long fucking hike. But New York State has a lot of red areas, but they're overwhelmed by the blue cities. So the people that live in the red areas have absolutely no say in anything that goes on in that fucking state because it's controlled by New York City, Buffalo, Rochester, Syracuse, Albany. Boom. It's it. They make all the decisions. Nobody who lives outside of the blue areas has any say in anything that happens in that state at all. Pennsylvania has Philadelphia and Pittsburgh, and then everything else is red. Allegheny County and the counties around Philadelphia are blue, and then State College, Penn State, is a blue dot in the middle of the map. Everything else is red. There's a little bit more of a balance of power there. The red and blue go back and forth. They don't have the complete authority to rule over the other side. There's a balance there. You got other states that are just totally red. West Virginia is red as fuck. There's, Morgantown, Charleston. I don't even think Charleston, West Virginia, is blue. I don't know. There's almost no Democrats in the state of West Virginia, except for the dumbass college kids in Morgantown. And so, that's a state where that's a state where Republicans rule everything and the Democrats have absolutely no say, and that's why the state's generally a fucking wasteland of poor people with a few rich assholes on top of the mountains. And so, but it would be a better place to live than a blue state because you'll have more freedom. Tennessee has Nashville, it has Memphis, and it has Knoxville. But the cities in Tennessee aren't big enough to overpower the whole state once again. So there's a balance there. Probably more in favor of the red than the blue, but there is a little bit of a balance of power there between red and blue. Blue doesn't get to completely overwhelm the red in Tennessee. I would say that I see the same thing here in Texas. You've got Dallas, Houston, Austin, San Antonio, El Paso. Basically anything that's a city is blue. And then, Fort Worth is basically, I think they separated from Dallas because that's where all the rich red people live, is Fort Worth, and Dallas is blue. But most of the state is red. You just got these blue pockets around, and the blue doesn't necessarily have enough power to overwhelm the red. I see that there is a balance of power here in Texas. In fact, I would say the balance of power is more in favor of the red, and that explains a lot of the shit that I see, like residential neighborhoods with no sidewalks. Because Republicans are like, fuck people who walk. Go get a car, you piece of shit. That would totally be a Republican decision right there. We got this whole residential neighborhood with, hundreds, if not thousands of houses all crowded together in this neighborhood. Fuck sidewalks. Why would they walk? Democrats wouldn't do that. Democrats would make it a law to have a fucking sidewalk there. And I'm not saying that I feel like we need to have a law to have a sidewalk there. But they need to put a fucking sidewalk here. Everybody's front yard in this whole neighborhood has a dead strip of grass going through it. A strip of dead grass and mud because so many people walk in front of their place all day long. That there are gaps. There are hedges with gaps in them because people walk through those gaps. All the way from here to Target. When I walk down this street, I'm walking on a dead strip of grass across everybody's front yard until I get to where the businesses are. And there's a couple of little strip malls, and there's like a Burger King there and a car wash and some other stuff. And there's a strip of dead grass that goes all the way across those parking lots. In between the parking lot and the road, there's like some sort of island or whatever. I don't know what you'd call it, but there's grass and trees. So there's a strip of dead grass going through that whole thing. And then when you get to the other side of Burger King, there's a strip of dead grass because you basically... They've put in all this chunky stone everywhere, so it's hard to walk on that. So you kind of have to walk up on the road, near the road, and there's a strip of dead grass that, because you don't want to walk on the road, so there's like a little bit of grass, then a strip of dead grass, then more grass, and then a drainage ditch for when it rains. And there's a strip of dead grass going all the way to the intersection where the major highway comes through. And then there's, I guess you'd call it sidewalks. You cross the major highway, and then there's it's fucked up. There's literally a crosswalk. There's a crosswalk with a fucking button that you can push, and on the opposite side of the street, it's a strip of dead grass and mud. But there's a crosswalk for it. There's a button to push that tells you when it's safe to cross. You cross the street and walk on dead grass and a strip of dead grass and mud. And you walk across that, and then you're in another parking lot. And then there's another strip of dead grass and dirt that goes around this convenience store. And then ends in another parking lot, and then you cross the next parking lot and there's a strip of dead grass and a row of hedges with a break in it because so many people have walked through the fucking hedges that the hedges can't grow in that spot because so many people walk back and forth. And then you're in the Target parking lot, but then there's another row of hedges in front of you, and there's like a spot in the hedges where there's like a bunch of dead grass and a pathway and a gap in the hedges because that's where everybody goes to get into the parking lot through the hedges. That's what I walk to get from here to Target. It's literally a well-defined path all the way from the front of this house all the way to where you're in the actual Target parking lot, and there's no more nature between you and the front door of Target. But literally every place that you have to cross, there's a strip of dead vegetation and dirt because so many people go back and forth along this pathway. It's like a deer path in the woods. So many deer and animals and elephants and whatever other animals, bears and everything else going back and forth, back and forth, back and forth on the same path. It becomes an actual trail with no vegetation growing in it, and it's just a pathway, a well-defined pathway through these areas. And it's the humans do the same thing. They just carve their own path. If there's no path for us to take, we will just make one. And so, I mean, you could probably see it from Google Earth, this well-defined path going from where I live to Target, even though there's no sidewalks or anything. And there's, like I said, there's literally a crosswalk where on the other side of the crosswalk, it's just dirt and grass. It's a dead strip of dirt going through a field of grass. And the grass is up over my waist now. But there's a strip of dead, it's either up to my knees or up to my waist. They don't cut the grass at all in this little island strip in the middle of the road, but there's a crosswalk for it, and on the other side of the crosswalk it's just a strip of dead grass and dirt. So that's Republican shit right there. I'm telling, Democrats don't do it that way. Democrats would have a sidewalk. They would have, somebody in a fucking wheelchair should feel safe. Like, they would give a shit about, like, somebody might have to go to the grocery store in a fucking wheelchair. That would be a death sentence. That would be, remember the movie Batman, the one with Bane, whatever the third Batman movie is? And they're having those mock trials, and they told the guy to walk out onto the frozen river. That was his sentence. He was sentenced. He's basically sentenced to death. But they were like, okay, go walk out on the frozen river. And then he falls in the river, and then that's that. That's basically what you'd be doing to somebody if you wanted to sentence them to death. Put them in a wheelchair and say, okay, go to Target. Just go to Target. And then a 18-wheeler shows up, bonk, runs them over. And then that's the end of it. That's Republican shit right there. That's how you know you're living around a bunch of retarded-ass Republican dipshits, is when you live in a residential neighborhood that doesn't have a sidewalk. Unfortunately, you need Democrats to build things like that. Republicans don't give a shit about anybody who can't afford a car or doesn't drive a car. Republicans are the ones that live in these neighborhoods that are all right next to each other, and they'll get in their lifted Dodge Ram to drive to the neighbor's house instead of just walking next door. They'll literally take their Dodge Ram, blow out a big cloud of black smoke, back out of their driveway, pull into the driveway right next door, and the whole family climbs out of the fucking pickup truck. Hey, we're here. Couldn't fucking walk, you lazy fat piece of shit. You literally live right there. So, I've seen this shit. I'm not kidding. Like, I've seen people. I lived out in the country. The people that, I'm telling you, my neighbors growing up would literally drive over to my place and vice versa. The houses are right next to each other, like maybe a few 100 feet away. Nobody would ever walk to go to the neighbor's house. They wouldn't even walk to the neighbor's house. It's right fucking there. You can see you could see the house. It's right there. No, let's go. Let's drive. I can understand driving if you got to like take something over there. You got to carry something over to the neighbor's house. You got to, something that would be awkward and bulky to carry, less than a quarter mile. Like 1,000. Let's say it's 800 feet. I could see, driving. If I could pull up a moving van right to the front of this place tomorrow when I move, I would certainly prefer to do that than to have to carry all my stuff. That's the thing I'm looking forward to the least between now and the end of the day tomorrow, is having to carry my stuff from this tiny house to like a van that's parked in the driveway. It's a distance. It sucked moving in. I was really tired from it. But when I get to the new place, it's going to be the opposite. I can pull the van right up to the front door, right up to the door. And I could literally get 3 feet from the front door if I want to get that close. I might just put a little more space so I have room to maneuver and whatnot. But no, unloading everything's going to be easy, super easy. The van getting packed is going to be my. It's what I'm not looking forward to tomorrow. And then I've got the job interview today. It's coming up. I'm doing my coffee this morning. I'm praying to the good Lord that T-Mobile gives me a stable internet connection. Please, Lord Jesus, allow T-Mobile to come through for me so that I don't ruin this job interview by having a bad internet connection. And I'll thank you in advance for that. It's the one thing that's kind of on my mind when it comes to the job interview today. So far, my internet connection's been okay, as much as I've used it. Even if I have to shut off the camera at some point and say, look, my connection might be a little unstable, so I'm going to turn off my camera to make it more stable. As long as I'm on camera for a part of the interview, I think that'll be acceptable. But I'm just going to hope that things work out. Things have a tendency to, if this is what God wants me to do, if he wants me to get this job, he'll make it happen. I don't think that a bad connection, you can blame the bad connection on the other side, too. Like, nobody's going to really know who's got the bad connection. They're not going to blame me for that. But either way, I'm excited because once I get done with that job interview, I can just, boom, start shutting down, start packing, start pulling stuff together, and I have a feeling that the packing and getting out of here is not going to take as long as I think it could. I think it's going to go smooth. I know that I'm looking up at my storage bin, and I know that box is mostly empty. Those boxes are completely empty. Another box might be full, but it's clothing that can be moved into something else, and then I have a box. Like, I remember not having to worry too much about I don't know. There's a number of things that are going to be annoying, but everything in here is modular. It's literally like I am packed. It's literally like I went on a camping trip and I set up in this cabin, and now I'm getting ready to pack down camp and go camp somewhere else. It's a little bit more advanced than a camp because I've got an antique desk to carry around. Everything in here is foldable, modular, can be completely disassembled and packed down really small. Everything from the tables to this bed cot thing to my computer desk to the wire shelf unit if I have to do that. I'm hoping I don't. I don't see why I would. I don't want to disassemble the wire shelf unit. I just want to put it in as is, and that way I don't have to reassemble it when I move. But yeah, I gotta pick up the thing at 8 o'clock in the morning tomorrow, right when they open, and hopefully, I think I might go to Home Depot and grab 2 storage totes, just in case. There's no reason that having some extra storage totes would be a bad idea. Space is a premium in this place, but if I can get a bed frame, I'll just get a bed frame tall enough to put storage totes under, and that'll hide most of those. But I'm just not. I'm looking forward to this. I'm just a little bit nervous about. I want it to go fast. I want to be able to like pull in with a U-Haul van and boom, 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 be out of here as fast as I possibly can. I just want to be out of here as fast as I can get out of here. And why this job interview today? It kind of, I'm rolling with it. I wasn't gonna say I should have said I'm not available till next week, honestly, but I don't want to push it in that respect. If this is the day that they are available and it's going to make things easy, I'll do it. I don't think I really have anything to worry about there, but like, I've been trying to get this job interview. It's been at least 2 weeks. It's been at least 2 weeks since the recruiter reached out to me and started the whole process to get this interview. And they're telling me, they told me last night in a text message, the one recruiter told me, said, hey, if this interview goes well, they're going to hire you pretty much on the spot. Like, they don't mess around. They don't go dragging people through, 3 or 4 rounds of interviews. They said, if you make a good impression, they're just going to make you an offer right. Maybe not during the interview, but you're going to get a call from us within a very short period of time, and then I'll find out, what's next. Are they going to do a background check, pee in a cup thing? Are they going to make me jump through hoops, or are they just going to send me some tax forms to fill out and say, here you go, here's your new job? I feel like there's part of me that feels like I should be sitting in front of my computer preparing for this job interview, but I know from the past, I would say I'm getting there. I would say in the next 20 minutes or so, I've got to get ready. I don't believe in spending too much time to prepare for a job interview. There are exceptions to that rule, but generally speaking, the longer you if the interview today is at 1 p.m. Oh my God. I just got some good news. a bar of good. Oh my God. Yes. Yes. Jesus is King. Jesus is the Lord. Lord and Savior Jesus, you're the best. You're the best. I just got a bar going across the screen with a text message while I'm talking to you that was just, oh, here's some good news. Oh. Oh, I'm getting some help moving tomorrow. Oh my God, that's so awesome. That's gonna make things so much faster. It'll take less than an hour to get everything out of here with some help. Easily. Easily. Um, but anyway, job interview. Job interview is set for 1 o'clock in the afternoon. If I woke up at 6 in the morning and just feverishly started trying to do as much as I can to prepare for this interview and like what, studying questions and answers, um, polishing up my portfolio, putting together a presentation, all this, that, and the other thing, I can guarantee you that when 1 o'clock gets here, all that time that you spent today was pretty much a waste. The interview will probably go in a different direction than what you thought, and all the preparation that you did will be for pretty much nothing. The presentation that you put together won't be shown. There's something to be said if I already have things that I can show. I already have a portfolio. I already have links to bring up. About an hour before the interview, I'll start putting together a package of if you will, of browser tabs and different things that I can show people and different notes for me to have in front of me while I'm talking to people. And so I'll have 2 different screens worth of stuff. One screen of stuff to show people, one screen of stuff for me to see as I'm talking and me to take notes. There isn't much to do in terms of studying and all of that. Me personally, I'm not the guy who studies the night before a big test. If you either know the shit or you don't at that point. Studying is just going to wear you out, make you more tired. If you're just studying and studying and studying right up to the last minute and then you take a test, I feel like you're going to be more burned out and tired and have a harder time taking the test than if you rest before taking the test. Don't even think about the test the day before or the night before. Come in fresh and relaxed to take the test. Because once again, you either know the shit or you don't. And no amount of preparation the day before or something like that is going to change that. I know people who feel the opposite, and they cram and they study and they try to do everything they can to prepare the night before, the morning of, etc. No, man, I'm not. That's not me at all. At all. I've never been like that. I'll never be like that. So the same applies with a job interview. Try not to think about the job interview. Try not to focus on it until a reasonable amount of time. Like I have to take a shower. I got to put on a shirt with a collar and some buttons or something so that it looks like I'm a professional. I got to test. I got to blur out the background. What am I going to do for the backdrop here? It's going to be... That's a problem. That's a problem here. It doesn't look completely horrible if I angle the camera a certain way, but I'm going to have to mess around with that because it's not Zoom, it's some other app. And so my Zoom settings aren't going to be configured, and I'm not going to have an easy time with that blur. I don't know how to blur the background and all that kind of crap. But it should be intuitive when I do this. I know that the app that I have to use has the ability to do all that stuff, but once again, I don't want to I don't want to give them a bad impression by showing a shit show behind me. I think those are the kinds of things that I'm more worried about than the actual interview and presentation. Um, oh my goodness. Huge sigh of relief. Oh. Oh, yes. Anyway. Okay. Okay. Um, Deep breath. It just sucks. The timing sucks. There's no doubt about it. I should be chilling for a few and then getting out of this chair and starting to pack for moving tomorrow, not having to do a job interview that's a high pressure, high stakes thing. But isn't that the way it always works, huh? So whatever, I'll do what I can do. I'm not that worried about the interview. It's either going to go smooth or it's not. Um, it's either going to go smooth or it's not. Same, and I'm pretty good at job interviews. I'm able to, there's some tricks. Like I said, the tricks I can give you, the tips I can give you, any job interview, it does not matter whether it's a job interview at Home Depot or a food service job, or you're going for a six-figure C-suite job at some company. Don't say more than you need to say. That's number one. Less is more. Anything you say can and will be used against you. Treat it like you're talking to the police. But because there will be some good cop, bad cop in certain types of interviews. Some interview strategies people use, they try to make you uncomfortable on purpose to see how you perform under pressure. So they will be a little bit. I mean, I'm not saying this is what's going to happen today. I don't expect this kind of an interview, the ambush interview. But sometimes you'll get people that are outwardly hostile towards you during the interview and cop you an attitude because they're purposely, like, they might actually be really cool people, but they'll purposely cop you an attitude and be hostile towards you to see how you react to it. Because it might be a high pressure environment or something like that. Or they treat you like that in the job interview because they're douchebags and that's how they are all the time. So, you're really not going to know one way or the other. If people are hostile towards me during a job interview, I will read into that they must be douchebags to work for. But sometimes it's just a strategy to see how you perform under pressure. If you become combative, or they're looking to see if you get combative in response to it, or if you break down and fall apart because of it. And if you can get past that without being combative and without falling apart, then that will give them a good impression. One job interview that I did have to prepare for overnight. I stayed up a whole night without sleep to do this. It was part of a 4-interview process with the company I was working for when I got arrested. To get that job, I had to go through 4 interviews. The third interview was a portfolio review, and so I had to put together a slide deck catered to trying to make a good impression on this company and talk about the stuff that I did that relates to what I'd be doing for them. And I stayed up the whole night to do it. Didn't sleep, just pounded coffee. Next morning, it was a 10 a.m. in the morning interview. It was early enough that after the interview was over, I went to bed. But during this interview, I'm in the driver's seat for the interview, and there's probably 6 people on a Zoom call. And I'm sharing my screen and talking about my portfolio. And there were about 3 people on the Zoom call that were being aggravating, asking pointed questions and criticizing everything I showed them, and et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, just, I wouldn't, hostile would be pretty, I think saying that these people were hostile would be pushing it didn't cross that line into hostility, but it was definitely not pleasant to be bombarded with the attitude of a few. There were 6 people in the room. There were 3 of them throwing shade the whole time. And just the tone of voice, the questions, the attitude. But I handled it well. I answered all their questions. I didn't let them faze me. I didn't break out of I didn't break out of professionalism. I didn't get combative with them. I didn't break down and fall apart. And I got through it. And at the end of it all, I got hired. And so when I was getting hired, the guy who was my boss told me that he could tell from the job interview, especially the portfolio review, that I didn't put up with shit from anybody, and that I had a lot of confidence, and I don't care what other people think. And if I see that something is being done wrong, I'll call it out. And if I see that something's being done right, I'll defend it against people who might not want to go with it. And he said, that's exactly what I need. He's like, you're the perfect guy for what I need to be done, because I literally need a guy who goes to bat for the team. We've got managers in all these different departments that want us step on our toes and make decisions, but we're the ones that know what we're doing in this design genre, in terms of the user experience design. Our team knows what's best, obviously, and we're constantly getting into management battles against managers from other teams, trying to make decisions that are not good for the product. We have to go to bat against those. We have designers that other managers try to boss around, and the junior level designers will just do whatever they're told, no matter who's telling them to do it. And we need someone like you who will step in and say, no, you do what you're supposed to do. I'll go deal with this manager over here that's barking orders at you, and shut them up. And it wasn't like hostile. He's like, you're friendly, you'll get along with everybody, but he's like, I can tell that you don't put up with anybody's shit, and you don't cave in, and you have confidence, and you don't care what anybody else thinks. And he's like, that's exactly what I need. Those were his exact words on my first day. He's like, you're going to have a lot of fun, because I'm giving you a lot of authority to just do what needs to be done here. And so he's like, because I got work I got to do, and I keep getting into these squabbles and battles that are taken away from the things I need to get done. He's like, I need somebody who's got like a backbone. I can't have somebody wishy-washy who just goes in, and then you're constantly coming to me with all the problems that I'm already dealing with. He's like, I need you to put your foot down and take care of these problems, and only escalate things to me when you come to an impasse and you can't get it done. He's like, I'm here. I got your back. I'm going to bat for you. But he's like, I'm looking to take a lot of I need people, not just you, but I need people under me that can shield me from a lot of this bullshit. And then I found out, personality-wise, one of the guys that was throwing me shade during the job interview, really nice guy. I liked all the people. All the people I worked with there were great. I had no issues with anybody. But there were different personalities, and this one guy, he was really good to work with. He was a senior level designer. He should have had my job, and he was offered the job, but he didn't want it. He wanted to stay as being a pure designer. He didn't want to get into the politics and all that crap. But he would have been good at it. He would have been really good at it. But he was very serious all the time. You could never crack a joke with the guy. I don't think I ever saw him smile. It was always serious, 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 serious. And he was, I wouldn't say he was negative, but the personality that he threw at me during the job interview was his personality straight through. It was actually, so it didn't, and then I had the opportunity, the company chat app, we had a specific chat room for post job interview evaluations. And I got to read my post job interview evaluation, what everybody on the team, everybody who was in my interview had a little powwow in this room, as we do with every candidate that would come in the door. And I got to read what everybody said about me after the job interview. And it was mostly praise, it was mostly positive, but this one guy that kept throwing me shade during the whole job interview was like, I don't think he's a good match. He showed us a bunch of technical skill, but I don't think he has the UX chops. And he said some bad shit about me. And then I was his boss. But I never really looked at it like I was these people's boss. On the org chart I was, but I never looked at it like I was their boss. I was I was on their team. I was there to, this guy was a senior designer. There was another high senior level designer. I didn't have to babysit them at all. The only thing I ever had to do for them, and for them, because I was the manager, the things I would do for them would be come into meetings, have their back. But like if my designer's the quarterback, I'm the linebacker. I'm protecting the quarterback. And so people are coming after my quarterback, I'm going to be hitting them, knocking them out of the fucking way, letting my quarterback take his time to throw the pass. You know what I'm saying? And so, he'd be in a meeting with a bunch of managers that are ganging up on him. He did a really good job on a prototype. We've tested it. Customers think it's great, etc. They're pushing back, telling us we can't build this, we can't do that, we need to change this, we need to change that. And I'm like, nope, this is what we're gonna do. And this is the kind of, there's politics. So I'd have my designers back in those meetings and say, no, he did a good job. We're gonna go with what we've vetted this design as a team. It's not just him making this up out of nowhere. We've tested this. We've got customer feedback that says it's great. It's intuitive. It's easy to use. What you're proposing is a steaming pile of dog shit. Now, I wouldn't say those words, but I would say we're not going to ruin the integrity of our product by putting an inferior design in front of our customers. We don't care that it's going to take longer to build it right. And then these are the things I would get into with that job. The same thing with the other senior level designer. I would just sit in meetings, let them take over, and just be in the background being like, if the dogs start barking at my designer, I'm going to be like, sit down, shut up. And that, not rude, not in a rude way, not in a mean way, like I'm making it sound, but strategically, like, making sure that the designer, that it's at a senior level, shows up to this meeting knowing that there's other people in the meeting that has his or her back, that will push for the design that the designer came up with to be what goes into the actual product. And it's not going to be some bastardized, dumbed down, watered down bullshit version of what we designed. And then I had a few junior level designers that reported to me, and with them, it was more of same thing, going to meetings with them, making sure I got their back, making sure that my designers didn't get beat up by other managers and things like that, that they had somebody on their side every time they go into a meeting where things could be hostile towards them. but also being an art director, saying that, uh, fix the spacing of that typography. Probably want to use the bigger button style for that button. Why don't you work on the colors for that? Just quality control. You know, the prototype that you built with the screenshots, you could do a better job. Here's how. Um, just junior, like being an art director, just pointing out mistakes. I had one girl who she was Asian, and she didn't speak good English, so I could go to meetings with her and help be the translator. I had a hard time understanding her, but the more you get to know somebody, the more you understand what they're saying and whatnot. And I'm not the only person we had a lot of people from all over the world that spoke different levels of English. So this wasn't like this was something I dealt with all the time. I had people from Argentina, from Spain, from Portugal, from other places, Brazil, India, all over the world that I had to deal with all the time. And so some people were hard to understand when they talk. And so, my focus with those people was getting to the point where I could understand them, and in some cases I would just text back and forth with the chat, because it's easier to understand somebody when you're texting back and forth than it is when you're talking back and forth. But there were confidence issues with the junior level designers, that they could go into a meeting where there's 3 or 4 people that are high ranking on the pyramid of power, and they would get dominated by those people, and I would have to step in and say, back off. Like, here's why we're doing it the way we're doing it. Here's why what you're proposing might not be the best idea, and all those just push back. And so it was more of a political job than a design job. And I would rather be a designer, to be honest, than a politician. But I enjoyed it just the same, because it was fun. It was fun being able to put my foot down and be like, nope, we're going to do this right. That was fun. I'm not going to lie. That was a fun part of that job. Being able to make sure that things got done correctly, and to push back. And then in the span of the 4 months I was there, I would have to reach out to my boss. I would have like a weekly update with him one-on-one. And I would just say, here's the areas that are stuck that you might have to step in and put your foot down, being higher up on the ladder. And you might even have to go to my grand boss, or maybe my great grand boss, to handle this one, because so and so is pushing back and they don't want to do this. And a lot of it was compromise. One set of programmers, the manager of a programming team, would push back on something we designed, saying it's going to be too hard to build. We can do this instead. That's going to be easier. I might say, no, you're going to do the hard one. We'll just have it take more time, but we want it to be right. And then you have, then it comes back to my team, and we go a few rungs up, and then those people up there on the top of the pyramid start going at it. They come up with some compromise, and we all come to an agreement, and we stop arguing about it. I know there was one major thing that I got handed a major problem that they had been trying to resolve for, I think, something like 2 years. And I was able to decipher the problem in such a way that I started to I made a diagram of the problem, and the diagram was ridiculous. It was covered with memes, made all kinds of jokes about how bad this thing was, and I did it in such a way that visually I showed them how ridiculous this is for a customer to try and use. And when the right people saw my presentation about this, they all decided that we have to fix it. But up until somebody broke it down and actually showed and told the story about how ridiculous this thing was, nobody was on board to change it because it was an extremely complicated system, and making the changes that we needed to make would easily take a few programming teams an entire year to do it. And we would have to do it in such a way that it doesn't disrupt existing customers. And it was going to be a shit show to redo this thing. That's why they just kept kicking the can down the road. It's like fixing Social Security. Every time Congress gets together to work they work 40 days out of the year. Whenever they get together, they're just like, all right, well, how are we going to save Social Security? Kick that can. Fuck it. No, kick that can. Let the next Congress figure it out. We need to keep our jobs. We need to get reelected. Fuck it. We're not even going to talk about that. Let's find some other dumbass shit for these peasants to get all worked up about, and we'll focus on that. We're not going to fix any problems. Like, we're not fixing Social Security. That's a fucking disaster. Just kick it. Let the next Congress figure it out. And then the next Congress comes in. They're like, oh, fuck that. Let the next Congress figure that out. We're not touching that. That'll be the end of our our tenure. We'll be unelected if we try and fix that shit. Just let the next ones figure it out. And that's kind of what this problem was at this company. And so I tried to dig in deep and show why we have to fix it. And like I said, the right people came to the right meetings, and they started to see it for what it was. Because nobody had actually been able to decipher the entire bowl of spaghetti and make and figure out how the whole thing. Nobody knew how it works. You couldn't just log into the website during a meeting and demonstrate it, because it wouldn't tell the whole story. But when you laid it all out on a board and said how this whole complicated thing ties together, and here's why a customer gets to this point, and then they throw their hands up in the air and they call us and they tell us that we have to do it for them because they can't figure out how to do it themselves. Here's why they can't figure out how to do it themselves. And I just showed how incredibly convoluted and ridiculous it was. And so that convinced people high up in the company to say, oh, we're definitely going to have to fix this and improve that experience. And even though it's going to be millions of dollars and it's going to take a year or two to do, but we have to do it. Like, there's no doubt in our minds now that we have to do it. This cannot be allowed to continue. And it's only going to continue getting worse as our software gets more complicated. We can't just piecemeal anymore. We're putting trash on top of trash, and it's just becoming a landfill. And how are you going to find anything in a landfill once you've thrown 1 million trash bags in a landfill? How are you going to find, oh crap, I need that copy of my electric bill from last November? Good luck. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't know. This is probably me practicing for my job interview today. But I'm going to get going. I'm going to reach back to my friend that's going to help me move. Woo! Oh, I'm so thrilled about this. That just gives me another sign that things are going to work out. Anyway, it's been nice hanging with y'all. Hopefully soon you'll get to see a tour of my new place. Peace out.